to start out right in the front area right here near the bangs, and the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that you never want the taper on the sides to go higher than the bang. So what I mean by that is when you comb the bang length down here, the blend on the sides should finish where the bangs start. It should not be, the blend should not be up here around the round of the head and the bangs are longer. The whole haircut will be out of balance. So as I start in through this section here, this round of the head section, I want to make sure that the angle of my comb finishes out so that hair never gets into the comb. So I'm going to cut on this plane, and I'm going to slowly pull the comb away from the head so all that hair falls out of the comb and those bangs never go into the comb. So we never cut it too short here or a hole or leave a hole in the bang area. So I'm not worried about any of this hair around here. That's the next section. The only thing I'm focusing on is one section at a time, starting with the top section and now the round of the head section. I'm using a large black comb. Another word for it is graduation, the hair from shorter to longer. So we're starting a little bit lower. The comb is always parallel to the side of the head for this particular haircut. So you want to picture this angle in your mind. If this hair was long enough to pick up, like this, basically you have your bottom guide and then you have your previous guide that you left, and it's the hair in the middle that we're now we're going to work on beginning the taper in the semi-finish area. And the semi-finish area is the 2 finger width, 1 to 2 finger width above the ears and around the outline of the haircut. So we're going to do that with a clipper over comb technique and an adjustable clipper. Now an adjustable clipper, we call it an adjustable clipper because it has a lever on it and you can open it and close it. I like to start out with it in the open position, which when you open it up, it extends the blade and it makes the actual length of the blade thicker. And what that does is it gives it a softer, more blended cut. So then we just go around the outline of the haircut. Now what I like to do here is I don't want to cut in to the area I already cut. I want to rest the base of the comb at the base of the outline or the hairline all the way around. And we're going to control the length just by angling. So now that we have everything tapered out, we're going to make a line on the sideburn and we're going to shave up. We never hold the clipper here and drag it down. If we drag it down, the cutting teeth are so close to the stationary blade that you're in danger of the cutting teeth going directly to the skin and causing razor marks. That's what we're trying to avoid. So we pull that ear down and you can see all that hair pop out over the ear. Now with these haircuts, a common request or complaint when your customer comes back is that the hair touched my ears too quick. So it's very important that you pull the ear down and make sure you, without drawing a big arcing, white strip or white wall around the edges, you want to make sure that you get all this hair off from behind the ear. And then while you're on the ear, what I do is I just put my thumb right in front of the ear and pull that part out. And if there's any little bit of a fuzz in the ear, you can get in and grab any bit of that little bit of fuzz. And then you just run the clipper blade over the rim of the ear. So best is a scissor over comb technique, a large comb and a large scissor, so we can go through a good amount of hair. I'm going to angle the comb downward towards the back because we're eventually just going to shave over the back anyway. So I'm using the center section as my center guide. I can see it in the comb because I'm using a light colored comb on dark hair. So I'm going to take 2 sections on each side. Okay, so go across the top section. Now I'm going to take another section. I'm going to start taking the sections on the right-hand side. And a really nice benefit to haircuts like this is when this customer sat down, he made some comments about his cowlicks and how much they annoyed him. And the best part of this haircut is we wind up cutting the cowlicks right down to the point where they don't start to stick up until it's time for another haircut. So this is a very popular haircut for that reason. So again, large comb allows us to control large amounts of hair. And we're just working our way around. And this step doesn't have to be 100% perfect because we are going to be going over a lot of this with our clippers anyway. So we just want to make sure that that hair is feeding into the comb properly, so as that hair is going forward, we're coming against the way it grows. Okay, so we're just continuing to work our way around. As you see, the hair's growing in all different directions, so we got to go in different directions so we can cut the hair against the grain. That's the way the hair comes off the easiest. Where it gradually goes from no hair into the haircut. So one thing with this customer's hair we have to be careful of is he has a high hairline around the ear, so we don't want to get in there and do too deep of a taper because it's going to leave a high arcing white wall around the outline of the haircut. So we just want to do a little bit and leave it alone. Now in the corner here where it's all growing sideways, the only thing we're going to do is take this clipper and just in the direction it grows before we come back with the trimmer. And same thing down here. We're going to completely turn it upside down in the corners, but we want to leave the taper. We're going to use this neck hair to build a corner there. We don't want to round it off. Then in the middle where it grows straight down, we flip the clipper around and we start to taper it out. You can use a little clipper over comb if you have to soften that up where that tail is. So I'm going to be working with two guides. I'm working with my center guide and my previous guide. Always keep the comb parallel to the floor when you're on the top section. Okay, and I'm going to take one more section. And that last section, you're not going to wind up taking as much hair. Just keep that comb parallel to the floor, and whatever is in the comb, cut it. You don't need to go looking for hair to cut. You want to keep that comb parallel to the floor. Now we're going to come across and we're going to do the right hand side. And it's okay to turn your client's head a little bit towards you without reaching all the way across. Locate your center guide and take one section to the right hand side. And what I like to use is I like to use a detachable blade clipper. So these are actual metal blades that come on and off the clipper. You want to make sure your clipper is on when you're fitting the blade on there and closing it. I'm starting out with my largest attachment, or my largest blade, which is 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to work my way down to the length that I see fit around the edges. But the first step is I want to blend into my top guide, and I want to remove the bulk here. It's going to make, in other words, I like to start longer and work shorter. So when I get to the round of the head section, which basically is the parietal ridge, the parietal area, I let the parietal area push the teeth of the blade away, and I take an imaginary line straight up in the air, and that avoids a heavy weight line that we have to blend out. So this is a 3/8 blade, and we're going to work our way all the way around with this. And that's what it should look like all in real speed. And then we're going to finish this portion of the fade with our 1.5. Okay, now we're going to move down to our next blade size, which is the 1/16, which in the metal blade system is a 1A, and I'm only going to go halfway. And I'm going to use the scooping motion when I get halfway to the top. And this is going to give us a nice fading effect. And then in the front, we're just going to clean. We're not going to give them a deep outline or a deep edge up. We're just going to clean up a little of the loose hairs there. Going to pull the ear down. Clipper's very sharp, so I like to get the hair in this direction instead of taking a clipper and pressing down. If you're using especially this particular trimmer, it's the sharpest one. And the cutting blade is very close to the stationary blade, and especially with the ear where the skin is loose, you're in danger of irritating the skin. Okay, so now on the other side where we have this nice taper, we want to keep our line on an angle. We don't want to cut in and cut that off. So we're just going to line it and shave to it. Okay, and then as we work our way around, we're going to do the same thing on the back of the neck. We don't want to get close to our taper. We still want to keep that separation between blade lengths. That's what causes the fading effect. We're going to use a clipper over comb technique on the beard. I like to use a clipper over comb technique because I feel I can control the length of the beard much better. A lot of times when you put an attachment on a clipper, it can kind of get stuck, especially in a thick beard. So I'm going to start out with the clipper, and I'm just going to work my way up the angle and create a little bit of a guideline on the side here. And then we're going to go in and we're just going to start tapering it. I'm starting out with the clipper in the open position. The hair's not too thick here. If the hair gets thicker and we're having a difficult time trimming the beard down, we can close it down into the closed position. I want to put a slight taper on the outline of the beard. So that way we're going to get a nice sharp outline. Spot right there above the scar, and then we're going to work our way down. Beard should be square. If you go straight across and you don't follow the angle of the jawbone, which dips down, when the customer sits up, he's going to look like he has a chin strap and it's going to round off. So we'll show you what we mean here. We'll get our first initial cut. And then we got to angle down towards the corners. And with your trimmer, never drag down, just make your line. Give yourself your guide. And then we create our corner on the side, so we're even all the way around to the recession, and then we're going to even that up in the back so it's just below the crown. And then we're going to go to the middle of the back here, and then we'll section off the other side and do it the other way. So we'll start, and we're going to go start on the beard and go right up through. And we just want to make sure that we don't get any of that hair from the top length in, so we'll just take our comb and basically use the base of that comb to protect from going up any higher. So get that base of your comb right there so it won't allow you to go into any more of the hair. And that way you're safe. Okay, we don't have to be so concerned with the hair around the ears because we're going to tighten that up, taper that up with some of the shorter blades and do a little bit of a reverse taper into the beard. Okay, as I get to the back, don't forget to protect the hair on top because the one time that you don't is the one time you're going to cut a hole into the top. Head back down. So now you can see we have a nice taper there. The base of the hairline is here. I don't want to go anywhere past that. So once I get to the base of the hairline, I start my scooping motion with the adjustable clipper in the open position. Then I'm going to close it halfway down and not go as high. Then we're going to close it all the way down and keep it a little bit lower. So there you go. Now we have a nice taper and the tools did all the work. You don't have to stress or anything over it. Just let your tools do the work. So I just want to lightly dampen it. I'm going to use my scissor over fingers technique with my shorter shear. And I'm going to comb all the hair straight back, basically, and just come from the back. And there's just some split ends there. Nothing really, no length really to take. So I'm going to pull it all up to the center where it's the longest. And I'm going to work my way forward and let my guide from each side fall out. The front has to be the longest portion of the haircut. So this is kind of the angle of the hair that we want. So to accomplish this, we're going to have to use an over-direction technique where we're going to over-direct the front all the way to the back here when we start cutting. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to stand in the front. I'm going to comb through the front of the hair, and I'm going to over-direct it all the way to the front of the ear. So if you can see, I'm lined up with the front of the ear, and I'm just going to take a little bit of hair off. What I want to do here is I want to just make sure that we have a square shape. I don't want to take too much hair off. The majority of the hair we're going to take off is going to be around the outline of the haircut or in the tapered area to make it really stand out. So I'm going to get my center guide. I'm going to comb the hair straight back down. I'm going to come from the front again. Over direct it back to the same spot, to the front of the ear, and I can see my center guide. Very slowly. And the key here is that I want to keep this very low because I want to leave myself another 1 finger width to blend it in, because we're going to have an extreme degree of graduation because we have a lot of hair on top. So when I say an extreme degree of graduation, from very short to very long very quickly. So 45-degree angle around the outline of the haircut. Now, and the reason why we use the scooping motion is because if you look at how long the blade is, if we get the blade completely on the side of the head, we're up way too high and we've blown the haircut. So we're just either going to use a scooping motion this way or a 45-degree angle coming around the outline. Now we're going to take our clipper comb, and we have to make sure that we have an extreme angle and follow that angle, because we don't want to cut into this sides and back area. We just want to blend out around the edges. So that's going to comb back in there nicely. So there's very minimal blending to do when you use a detachable blade clipper. Okay, and as we work our way around, I'm using the tips of the teeth on the comb, and that's cutting and blending at the same time. If you want to take a little bit more, you can push the heel of the blade more to the comb. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a light cream in his hair, and then we're going to dry it. The comb and the brush and the dryer all move in the same direction. We're going to dry it all the way up and to the back in this direction, and then in the front we're going to dry it straight up and pull it down to create some lift in the front to give it that pop. For this haircut, we're going to do a longer classic haircut where the customer can brush his hair either straight back, or he could brush it back with his part where the hair can fall down a little bit. So how we're going to accomplish that is we're actually going to section the top out of the way, and we're going to layer the underneath portion and clean it up around the edges. And then as we let the hair come down, we're going to over direct it back when we cut it. So what we're going to wind up with is a more of a disconnected haircut. We want the hair longer towards the front, so it gives the illusion that it blends when he brushes it back, but he's going to need it longer towards the front for it to style the way he likes to style. So again, when I say the haircut's going to be disconnected, the easiest way to explain it is you're going to see a visual blend, but it's not going to be a technical blend if you were going to pick it up and cross-check it in every which direction. So real popular hairstyle now in front here. And I don't want the hair tapered too close over the ears because we want to be able to brush it back. And when we brush it back, it's just brushing or just off the ear. So to do that, instead of coming behind the ear and tapering it out this way, all the work I'm going to do is the comb is going to be at a 90 degree or parallel to the side of the head, pulling the hair out at 90 degrees as I work my way up. So the scissor over comb technique is perfect for this. And the other thing I want to make sure that I do is the head is round. So we want to make sure I have this angle of the comb, because I want the hair longer towards the front where it has to travel more. I don't want to round it in and have it tapered in the temple area. So let's begin and we'll show you what I mean. So we're just going to do our scissor over comb. The hair is, we're holding the comb 90 degrees parallel to the side of the head. And then as we did on the other side, we can comb the hair all the way to the center and take one small little section and comb it out. And we can start our design line here, or our outline here. And comb out the next section. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to comb the hair straight back and we're going to part it directly down the center. So we're even all the way around. And we're going to blend the top into the sides and the back. So now when we're sure we have a nice even center parting, this is where your mirror comes into play. Make sure you're looking directly in your mirror when you're doing this and you have that nice even center parting. We're going to start in the back and I'm going to take a couple sections. The first section I'm going to take is a higher section here and create my center guide. And then I'm going to work with the traveling guide and small sections. I prefer a traveling guide versus letting the hair fall down and then resectioning it. I find it, for me, to be easier. I can control the hair better. So I'm going to comb all the hair back. I'm going to pick it up. And we're going to see just a little bit of a point in the center. That's all we need to do on the top. And same thing here. Pull it back to where the front of the ear is. And that's going to be our final section. So now we're blended all the way around. And we're going to check it as we go. Okay, so the only thing left to do now is we're going to clean up the sideburns.